Kia ora, Sharon here again. I just thought I'd go over a little bit of the pronunciation of the letters and how important it is to remember that the pronunciation of words in Te Reo Māori is very different to the pronunciation of words in English. So we have our English alphabet here with 26 letters, as you probably all know. And then for the Māori alphabet, we have the vowels here in red, the same. And we only have some of the consonants. So there's no B, C or D. There's no F and there's no G apart from, we'll come to that later. The first consonant we have is H. Then we have K, there's no J, there's no L. We've got all these consonants, there's no Q. There's the R, but the R is pronounced differently. The R in Māori is a little bit rolled, R. And this R is usually R, but depends on what the word is. There's no S in Māori, so personally I don't say things like Kiwis and Māoris and Pukekos. I just leave out the S because there's no S in Māori words. There's no S in the Māori alphabet. The T is there, and this is the one we've talked about before, which has the only inconsistency for the Māori language that I'm aware of is the pronunciation of the T depending on what vowel is after it. So in this case it's tu, and if there was the letter I after it, it would be T, and the other ones are more of a ta, te, do. So we haven't got a V, we've got a W, we haven't got an X, and we haven't got a Y or Z. But in Te Reo Māori we have two digraphs, one which is commonly pronounced F, and you will listen to very proficient Māori speakers having more of a wh here, but I'm not very good at doing that. It's much more commonly pronounced as F, so you can be very comfortable saying whānau. If in your area it's more appropriate to pronounce that differently, then to speak to the right people and get that pronounced correctly. And this one is ng, and it's the ng as in the sound in the English word singer, singer. So it's s, ng, 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 ng. It isn't inga, because a digraph is two consonants joined together to make one sound. So this has to be one sound, ng. It's very soft. Te Reo Māori is a very soft language. There aren't really any harsh sounds to it. So as you can see, there are a lot fewer sounds. The problem with English, which we're very grateful that if you've grown up with English as your mother tongue, I'm sure you're the same as me, very grateful for that, because it's a very hard language to understand. It's very inconsistent. Te Reo Māori, because it was a phonetic language, written down after it was already developed as a spoken language, is a very consistent language. So as an example, in English, this sound here in the word height is the sound I. In the word weight, the very same sound is A. And then in receipt, the very same sound is E. I, A, E. In Te Reo Māori, the sound EI, for example, if you're saying kei te pai, it's always a sound E. It sounds a little bit like K, E, and most people will say for that K. Always. Not changing like this one changes. Here in the word, these words, you would think that they rhyme, wouldn't you? Because they're exactly the same apart from this. But watch and catch have a different sound to their A. O and A, neither of which is the A pronunciation in Te Reo Māori. This A is always A, and if it has a macron, it's A. So in English, it's very hard sometimes, if you're a second language speaker for English, to know what's the pronunciation of things. If you've grown up with it, you've probably heard the language and you've just learned how to do it. Sometimes we have words that are very similar to each other and they're still not pronounced the same. So this is a musical instrument, cello, so it's ch and this is cellophane. So even though the first two syllables look the same, this is ch and this is s. And one of the most famous ones in the English language, which is very bizarre, is the OU with the GH. So this is the word rough, so that's a. This is the word cough, so that's o. This is the word though, so that's o. Through, so that's u. Thought, so that's or. And drought, so that's ow. So you've got 6 different sounds there for the sound, which would in Māori be one sound, u, u, or u, ou. So, when people sometimes say to me, oh, well, if I see a sign or a word, how do I know if it's a Māori word? You don't always know whether it's a Māori word, it's just kind of practicing, getting used to it. But for example, sometimes people will be practicing like I do with their signposts around New Zealand. So if you see let's say orewa. So let's you see the signpost orewa. Most commonly, a word starting with O is a Māori word, but obviously not always. One of the main things is that every Māori word ends in a vowel. So if the word doesn't end in a vowel, then it's not a Māori word. So if it does end in a vowel, then there's a likelihood that it's a Māori word, unless it ends in a silent E. So, for example, you might have a word like race. This is a silent E. So if there was a place name with a silent E at the end, then you would know it isn't a Māori word. It's just a matter of getting used to the words, but this is the key to it. If it has a vowel at the end. Another key is that in Te Reo Māori you won't see a G by itself. You'll see it with the N, and you won't see any of these other letters, like you won't see D and B's. So if it's a word which does end in a vowel but it has a B in it, you know it's not a Māori word. So it's really getting familiar with, through something like ahakamana, the sounds in Te Reo, and then you'll see those words and you'll know, oh, that can't be a Māori word because it's got a J in it, or that can't be a Māori word because it doesn't end in a vowel. So that's just a little lesson about the big differences between English and Te Reo Māori. And I think it makes it much easier when you have that kind of grokked in your head that the Māori language is consistently pronounced. You can approach any word and know how it will be pronounced, because remember, we're putting a break after every vowel. O, re, wa. It doesn't work for English words, sorry. Very strange ways of pronouncing English words, and fortunately for me, I don't have to worry about that. Okay, ka kite.